that initiative took off. We went from $600,000 a year in sale, or $600,000 a month, to 65 million a month.
Ryan, you have such an extensive history and so much experience in entrepreneurship, getting busy in the game well before the age of 21. When you think back on those early days, man, what are some of the biggest takeaways or learnings that come to the forefront for you?
Well, I've been doing this now for 25 years as an entrepreneur and taking risk, and a full-time entrepreneur at that. So, I had a job as an engineer, and I was in management and got promoted to management very early on. And I got to observe a fast-growing company, a culture that was very intelligent, and, we made a lot of money. And as a result of that, I then decided that I was going to do it on my own and venture off into entrepreneurship. And, the key things that I could share with an audience is, once you go pro, you have to play at a professional level. You have to constantly raise your standards. You have to surround yourself with mentors. You have to be reading and skilling up every single day. And so I went pro, meaning I left my job. I had a mortgage. I had a car payment. I had a lot of ego in the fact that I was making about $100,000 a year, and I had a title of vice president at a young age. And then I, went pro, and I've been humbled every step of the way.
Right. What was the most humbling realization or experience that you had in the come up?
Well, I think that humbling is a part of the process of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs have to be humble. We get humbled every day. Every time someone quits on us, every time someone rejects us, says no, every time, we have the best intentions and they fall apart, we get humbled. And so entrepreneurship it's a humbling profession. And so there's countless times where I've been humbled. And I think the secret to not being humbled is to keep a healthy check on your ego.
Yeah, exactly. That's so critical. And we're humans, right? So we inherently have our biases, and ego is a part of the human experience. But you have to look at business in a non-emotional way, especially when making key decisions. And I've always said you can't make long-term decisions with a short-term emotional mindset. It just doesn't work. And I had to learn that experience personally. So that's a big point that I think a lot of people really need to understand.
Yeah. When we have a challenge, we want to detach from the emotionality of that challenge so that we can see it clearly. If we get tangled up in it, we don't see it clearly. And we will often see a false reality. We'll think that we're going to die, or we don't have enough time, or we're not going to win, or we're not going to get through this. And, these thoughts arise at all levels of entrepreneurship. I have a friend that runs a multi-billion-dollar company that's going through a very difficult time right now because of the market changes in the real estate industry in particular. And, and there are days where he's feeling the same exact thoughts that, I feel, and that, you feel when you have a 10-person company or a one-person company. There are days where he's having the same exact thoughts. He just has the experience and, the wisdom, of having experienced a number of adversities throughout his career to get through it. And so every time a challenge comes your way or adversity comes your way, we should greet it. We should see it as a friend. We should dance with it, and we should learn from it. And as a result of those learnings, we create wisdom, and that wisdom is our most valuable asset.
Yeah, 100%. I'm curious, what is your decision-making process like? So what is the steps or the process that you engage in when making a really important business decision?
One, I evaluate the options that I have. When oftentimes we overlook all of our options. We only think, oh my gosh, if I don't raise the sales revenue by X amount, then I'm out of business. Like, well, there's other options. We could, we could cut expenses, we could
Mhm.
raise some capital, there's friends and family, there's all kinds of different ways that we could solve this problem. And when we get in a space of fear and scarcity, we retract and we don't evaluate the options, accordingly. So
Yeah.
I evaluate the options and then I run one play at a time. I don't try to run two plays, and I put everything I got behind the play. And if the play fails, I see it as a spiritual reason, like that wasn't the play. And then I got to run the next play. And I use a sports analogy because it's, if the clock is running down and you have no choice but to score, to win, then you only have one play at a time that's going to get you there. And you put everything you can behind the play. And if the play doesn't work, then you put everything you can behind the next play. And, eventually you try this enough times and you'll find plays that work and you'll run those plays effectively. And, you'll get to a result.
You've had such a storied career up to this point in your life, and you still have so far to go, right? But one thing that sticks out is having built the fastest growing company on the NYSE at an early stage in your career. I'm curious how that came about and what was the genesis of the idea for that company when you were in the stages of building it?
We got lucky in that we went through a tremendous adversity, and the 2008 recession had knocked us down, and it was a very difficult time. Our business had just been sold in a multi-year earnout, and we had sold August of 2008, and then the Great Recession hits in September. So our timing was, very, very favorable. However, our $2.5 million a month business went down to $600,000 a month. The public company that bought us wrote us off. They just basically hated us. They tried to fire me. They were not good acquisition partners. And myself and my co-founders decided that we were going to stick with the fight and we were going to change the business. We changed our messaging first and foremost to meet the new consumer. So we were a luxury goods business. We were selling anti-aging and luxury.
Okay.
And we shifted to selling meal replacement and to save money in the grocery store line. So our messaging now aligned with the new consumer, because the old consumer didn't care about saving money in the grocery store line because they had rising, their homes were appreciating, their equity was appreciating, their credit card facilities were appreciating. Who cared about an extra $100, savings a month or $200 savings a month? The new consumer cared about saving money. And so we put our incentives and our messaging together, and that would be number two. Is one was messaging, two was incentives. Once we got those aligned, then our customer acquisition engine really started to tune up. And then we did some other incentives where if customers referred us 3 additional customers, we had a thing called the Body by Vi 90-day challenge. And if you brought 3 customers on the challenge with you, we gave you your product for free, which further aligned with consumers' desire to save money. So, people will go out there, get 3 people to join them on their challenge and get their product for free. And this also aligned with the fact that when you do a challenge with friends, you're more likely to be successful. And it's good to work out with friends, and it's good to, work out with family and engage your whole family in something that's going to better them. And so that was, aligning incentives, messaging. And then the third part was, we had some good timing in terms of we got this message out on social media before the world had figured out how to use social media commercially. We were the first people to start marketing a challenge on social media. Okay. And now you've seen the Ice Bucket Challenge and a million challenges, and there's entire industries that teach you how to appropriately run challenges on social media. And we were the first to do that. So, that we were disseminating the message and distributing the message in a very, very viral way. And that initiative took off. We went from $600,000 a year in sale, or $600,000 a month, to $65 million a month in about 24 months time. And we generated a significant sum of profit, and the earnout that we were a part of ended up, being a significant earnout that we ended up, the final price tag they paid for the stock was like $792 million.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned kind of setting the trend in a way on social media with the promotional work that you guys did there. Was there anything else that you can attribute that growth spike to around the time that things really started to take off?
Yes. We we created a new economic model, and we went and evaluated the entire business model, and we
Mhm.
broke it down. We broke down everything, and we put the emphasis on who we wanted to serve, and
Okay.
got really focused on who is our ideal customer, how are we going to serve them, and put all of our energy on that. And the incentives and the messaging and the programs and the marketing and the sales and the product development and all of that was then focused on this this new individual that we were focused on. So we we broke down the business model and re-engineered it. We also crafted some principles during this time that we're gonna live by. And as opposed to, you know, hanging it up and retiring or running or hiding, we chose to fight. And you have a choice in these types of situations. You have a fight or flight choice. And the natural instinct is going to be flight. That's it. And sometimes flight is an appropriate strategy. If you're going to die or you can't win the fight no matter what, sometimes flight is. But in this particular case, we believed we could win the fight and we chose to fight. And as a result of that, we were able to, create the most successful company coming out of the recession, certainly in our industry.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and I've learned a ton since then, and I've learned a ton through those experiences that now, you know, comprise the wisdom that I have to offer the world. I tell people not only do I have 25 years of experience, but I've experimented with about $2 billion in revenue throughout my entrepreneurial career, and we kept a couple 100 million of that, but we deployed the rest of it in a series of experiments. Some worked, some didn't. Some
Yeah.
were programmatic, some were innovative. But when you have $2 billion plus rolled through your hands, there's a lot of experimentation and a lot of wisdom and a lot of lessons that come from that.
So I'm curious to that point, after this sale, in terms of making those other investments and deploying capital into other growth projects, how did you decide what you wanted to pursue after that time? Did it just evolve naturally, or did you have to work with a team to say what other businesses are out there? What other experiments do I want to take this and inject it into to learn?
Yeah, I made a mistake many entrepreneurs make after they come into a large sum of money. And that mistake was that I thought I was going to become an investor or a venture capitalist because it looks easy. It looks like it's less intense.
Right.
You hear about these huge rewards. Oh, this person bet on Uber. This person bet on Facebook. This person bet on Tesla. This
Yeah.
person bet on this, and
Yeah.
looks like they're doing quite well. And so I like to just have a simple job where I spread around some money and I make billions of dollars. That sounds great. I got 100 million. Let's spread it
Right.
out. And 10 times return on that, I got a billion. 10 times return on that, I got 10 billion. 10 times return on that, I got 100 billion, right?
Right.
Simple math. That's what every entrepreneur many entrepreneurs, I should say, make the mistake of. And I did make that mistake. And I invested on a lot of bad projects. I wasted a lot of money. I got involved in things that I shouldn't have. And then through those bad investments, I came to the realization that I'm a builder and I build things. Many entrepreneurs will tell you like their spirit animal. And they always love to say, I'm a lion or I'm a tiger. And I think that's great. Oh, you're a lion or you're a tiger. But lions and tigers don't build anything. The animals that build, which
Yeah.
is what an entrepreneur is, like they're more like the beaver or a bird that builds a nest, right? But like
Mm,
we are animals that build. We are not animals that speculate. Now, some
right.
people are great at speculation. They're made for it. They're trained in it. They're skilled in it. They love it. They live for it. It fits their personality and it fits their experience and their intelligence quite well. And then
Yeah.
other people are builders, and us builders should not be speculators.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute because I think to the point that you made, you know, you need to have the passion and the fire and the drive of a lion, but you need to actually apply that with the patience of a fucking turtle or a snail or something,
Yeah.
and start to shift your mindset from short-term immediacy, instant gratification, to one of long-term and really taking an investing perspective across the board if you want long-term success as an entrepreneur. That's what I've really been digging into myself the last year or so. I wanted what should take 5 or 10 or 15 years in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Once I when I really started in this game. Um, how important is patience and just working the plan, planning the work? How important is that for you?
Well, one, I love the expression, plan the work the plan. I use it all the time with my team. So we're aligned there. But, I'm 45 years old now, and the wisdom that I have has come by way of having some short-sighted decision making and mistakes and errors and a lot of failure.
Sure.
Um, the when you think about anybody who has success, what Warren Buffett or anyone, the failure is much bigger than the size of their success.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
So in order for Warren Buffett to wind up with $100 billion, he's had to make $1 trillion worth of mistakes. Now, the $1 trillion worth of mistakes isn't found in his balance sheet. It's
Right.
not found in the investments he did make. It's found in the investments he didn't make and he knew he should have made. It's
Right.
found in not taking action when you should have taken action. Like that's, the amount of opportunity that he has said no to that resulted in a gain is far greater than the opportunity that he has said yes to. But
Mhm.
he has learned to say no to even good opportunities that don't match his appetite and his profile. He doesn't have to swing at every pitch. He only has to swing at the pitches he likes. And that's something
Right.
that we fail to realize as entrepreneurs and investors. It's like, even if it's a great opportunity, oh, Bitcoin is going to make a ton of money. It's like, I don't need to swing at that pitch. Even if
Yeah.
that pitch is going to be a beautiful win, that's not my pitch. I don't know. I don't care to know about currencies and economies. It doesn't excite me. It's not what I want to study. Like I'd rather learn about real estate, or I'd rather learn about something else. Right. So we don't have to swing at every pitch that comes our way, even if
Yes.
it's a good one. We only
Yes.
have to swing at the ones that match, our profile. So that's one piece of advice that I'll share with you that I've learned as an entrepreneur and an investor. The other piece of advice that I'll share with you is it takes 5 years to build a foundation of a company. You will
Mhm.
not build anything that is going to withstand the test of time faster than 5 years. So it takes 5 years to build a foundation. Now, some people shortcut that because they pull teams together that they've worked with in the past. They pull capital together that they've worked with in the past, and then they build a company faster than a 5 year, build, because they have some foundation already in place that isn't on the surface. Like you can't see it when you go to their website, but there's some foundation. Like the two engineers worked at Stanford for 10 years and then started Google, right? That's foundation. So Google took off pretty quick. It still took 5 years to build their foundation, but
Mhm.
they already were pre-building that foundation before they even showed up with the idea to build Google.
Right.
So when you start a company from scratch, you should realize it's going to take 5 years to build the foundation. And then once you build a foundation, just like building a home, the home goes up very quickly. So knowing that, I'm 3 years into my journey of building my latest venture, AlterCall. It's like the first 3 years were a pain. You know, I went through COVID. I had this person doing my technology that, had a lot of personal issues. I had this person doing this, that issues. I had to develop my team, upgrade my team, recruit my team, figure out who I wanted to be, what we were going to become. All of this stuff is painful. And over time, as you're experimenting with messaging and sales approaches and marketing and software and technology and the other components of your business, eventually you get a foundation in place if you're crafting it intentionally. And then from there, you build. And so I
Yeah.
recommend to entrepreneurs that, when you mentioned this, the question was long-term versus short-term. Entrepreneurship is a long-term game. It takes 10
Yeah.
years to build anything that is meaningful. If you're good at it, it takes 10 years. And so be prepared to play for 10 years. I'm 45. I'm prepared to play this game called AlterCall till I'm 55 or 65, God willing. I have the energy to play till I'm 85 or 95. But
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm not getting anywhere big in under 10 years.
And to piggyback off of that's such a critical point, right? Don't start something you're not willing to put in a decade's worth of work towards. But on the flip side of that, I'm curious on your perspective on patience and waiting for the right thing. And I'm not a fan of waiting, because I think a lot of people they fall into stagnancy when they start looking and waiting and researching too long, right? And that can cascade into this long string of just doing nothing and manifesting and waiting for it. But talk about the importance of being willing to take action and to actually do, as opposed to thinking about it and being. How important is that?
Yeah, the universe will send you signs,
Yeah, it will.
and it will tell you when it's time to move and when it's time to wait.
Yes.
And you learn that because when you move and it doesn't work, it's because you were supposed to wait. And you'll know that because when you wait and it doesn't work, it's time to move. So if you're really in tune with your body and your spirit, you're asking yourself, like, all right, I feel like I'm being called to wait in this season.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing? And then the universe sends you signs to take action. Like a friend recommends a book about action, and all of a sudden you're watching a YouTube video, and and it's Tony Robbins talking about action. It's like the universe is sending you signs all the time as to help you determine what are the right next steps to take.
Yes.
So I've, in my spiritual experience, I've learned to tune myself into that. Most people need to take action. Most people have too much information. They spend too much time accumulating information. They have procrastination. They have distraction,
Yes.
and they're not built for action.
Right.
Now, that's the majority of people. So the prescription for them is action. Now, there's another group of people that are overachievers, and we tend to be too busy. And so the prescription for us is to make space and not to take as much action, because being over busy means I'm going to miss the signs and the opportunities that are coming my way. I'm not going to be prepared to take advantage of it. And the universe won't send you anything that you can't handle. So if I'm booked solid, 18 appointments a day for the next 9 months, there's nothing new coming in there. Like, the universe can't show up with a gift at my front door. An old friend can't come bring a new opportunity to me because I'm too busy to talk to that old friend.
Yeah. How long should somebody stay in something that maybe isn't working? Uh, but how should people draw that distinction between waiting it out, continuing to push, not seeing results yet, but also not quitting, versus, hey, this thing actually isn't working. I should just give this some space and give it some time and allow the universe to course correct me. How can you kind of differentiate between those two?
Yeah, correction is my favorite word. So if it's not meant to be, the correction, like if it's really not meant to be, the correction will be very big.
Okay.
It'll be a health correction. Um, it'll be something that course corrects you hardcore.
Yeah.
The way I would describe it is, you're driving this car and all of a sudden something takes your hands off the wheel and says, I'm doing the driving right now, because
Yeah.
your soul is not going to wind up getting to the destination that it's supposed to get to if you continue on this course.
Fact.
Now that's when the big corrections show up, that means, take your hand off the wheel and let the universe do the driving. Now, when small corrections are occurring, that tends to be shaping your competency and your character. And
Yeah.
so if we know that this is shaping my character, like for example, I got hit with a crisis. I felt a little negative. I was talking with my son about it. I'm like, I want to let you know dad's going through some stress. And he's like, yeah, I could sense it. He's 13. And he's like, yeah, I could sense it. And then, I realized, okay, I have to demonstrate to my son how to go through these types of challenges without having it, compromise my joy
Mm,
and compromise my happiness. And so that was a small correction that this challenge came to teach me. It wasn't a big challenge. It's just a small one, but
yeah.
I was making it bigger than I should have. And so that was a
Yeah.
small correction. But these are the types of things that come our way each and every single day, no matter what level of entrepreneurship you're at. And
Yeah.
each challenge and each adversity is designed to shape your character and your competency. But the universe will use closed doors and detours to try to shape your character and your competency. So if a door is closed, you should listen. Now, the big corrections you'll generally feel in your body. You'll get sick, you'll start being overly tired, and you might have other related health complications. And when those things show up, listen very deeply. Like, what's going on here? Because we should never allow our physical health and our mental health to be deprioritized. Like, our priority is our physical and mental and spiritual well-being. That's it. And then everything else we do comes after that. If what we're doing is coming at a detriment to our physical, spiritual, and mental well-being, then we're heading to a course correction.
Yeah, and for me, I think making time to go into liminal thought and meditation, and I think that's different for everybody. Like, you don't have to be sitting there literally meditating with music in order to meditate. Some people, the way they meditate best is taking a run and getting into that brainwave state that allows them to access certain levels of frequency and thought that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. And for me, there's several things, but making time to allow yourself to come out of the grind and to connect with your higher self and to open up and say, all right, what am I missing? And I think that's how people should approach that space. And that time is like, all right, I'm open. What am I missing? What is the big opportunity here? What is the right way that I should move here in this next chapter? It's so critical. And you might not fail, you might not die if you don't do that. But if you don't, you're going to miss over time. You're going to miss opportunities. They might be subtle at first, but over the course of time, it's so important to tap in like that.
Yeah.
What have you found in your experience there?
Well, I went through a real dark night of the soul, and I was willing to do anything and change anything about me in that time. I was like, God, whatever the hell I got to change, sign me up. Like, I want to become the father I'm capable of becoming. I want to become the leader. And there was nothing off the table, and there still is nothing off the table. Like, there's no vices or anything that I'm unwilling to let go of. I'm willing to let go of whatever is necessary for me to ascend to my highest level of consciousness.
Totally.
And meditation was one of those items that came to me that I had to learn. And I've learned that it's a skill. And I'll break it down. There's really 3 ways to do it. You can walk and meditate. You just have to pay attention to each footstep and the way it feels on your feet. And anytime your mind wanders, you go back to, ooh, that's a nice little rock. That's a nice little bump. Here's how my foot feels. And you could do walking around and just putting your attention on each step that you take. You can do meditation where you tune your ears. You could tune your ears to the sound of birds, which is my favorite. Just saying, I'm going to go outside in the morning, in the evening. I'm just going to listen for the birds. I just want to hear you.
Yeah.
5 minutes. I get the chills just telling this. A minute, 2 minutes. And every time I have a thought arise, I'm just going to go back and say, what bird is singing to me right now? And I'm going to think about those birds, not about the garbage and the noise and all the other stuff going on in life. And that's a thought meditation. And then the other form of meditation would be concentrating on your breathing. So you're just concentrating on the breath. I'm only going to think about my breath during this moment. In out, in the nose, out the nose, in the nose, out the nose. I'm tuning myself into my breath. And I'm just going to listen to my breath. And then the last item is pure stillness and silence, which tends to be the hardest for people to do because we're living a society and a culture that makes a lot of noise, and there's noise all around us. The radio's on, the TV's on, Facebook's on. And so we've desensitized ourselves and de-skilled ourselves from becoming silent. But learning how to be silent is the highest form of meditation. It's the hardest form to get to, where you shut down your thoughts, you shut down your mind, and you go to stillness and silence. And that's the highest skill level you can get to. And then there's some that can do that for a long period of time. Like, they can sit in stillness and silence for an hour or 2 hours or even weeks. And I've experimented with, these tactics. The first step though, just go listen to the birds. You have to have a mental training regimen. If you're not actively working on your mental health, it is actively working against you, because your brain is growing and changing based on the environment all around. You can't control that. So you're being programmed and you have to take control of the programming. And when you do that and you become a practicing meditator, you actually get above your thoughts. They no longer control you. You observe them. When they arrive, you're like, what the hell did that come from? Some people believe in past lives, go like, I have no idea why I had this stupid thought. Or another thought comes in and you're like, that's noise. Or another thought comes in, you're like, maybe I should call my sister. Another thought comes in, maybe I should reach out to an old friend. Maybe I should check in on somebody, right? So, as the thoughts arise, you just start to observe them and you filter them and you delete the ones that, are unnecessary, and you have grace and humility and you laugh. You're like, what the hell am I thinking about right now? That's just ridiculous. There's no point in me having that thought. And the more that you do it, the more that when the thoughts arise that are fear-based or scarcity-based, you just observe them and you're like, I choose not to have a scarcity thought right now. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. I appreciate Professor Scarcity showing up here. No, thank you. I appreciate Mr. Fear showing up. I'm not interested in fear today. And the more that you detach from your thoughts emotionally, and you're just like, these are just things that are floating around in the air that my antenna is picking up, but I only want to listen to the ones that are important to me, the more that you can control your own mental health.
Yeah, totally. The brain is a great filtration device and server, but it's a lousy master. That's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah. It is what it is. It's like if my heart's beating fast, I got to slow it down, right? I don't want to, have my heart beating too fast. I want to ground myself and calm myself and maybe take a hot bath. And if my brain's racing too fast, I got to slow it down. And that's what meditation is.
Um, in terms of like stress and anxiety management, like you said, obviously that's becoming more and more prevalent with the world that we live in and the work style that a lot of us are shifting into with being remote, and everyone is on all the time, 24/7. Obviously we talked about meditation. Are there any other techniques? I know you're big on breath work, that you look to integrate on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah, there are. My favorite is a hot bath with salt in it.
Me
I
too.
get some salt bath going and listen to classical music or worship music, or, maybe 60s classic or whatever, Pink Floyd, whatever I'm in the mood for. And I'm just like, I'm putting my phone down and I'm going to relax and recharge. The other things I like to do, I like to catch the sunrise. I like to catch the sunset. So I'll go hike up and catch the sunrise. That's a powerful thing for me. And what I share with people is there are things that drain your energy, and then there are things that replenish it. There are things that bring you light, and there's things that take your light. And we want to sequence throughout our day the things that add light, that fill up our cup, with the things that drain our cup. And anytime we drain the cup, we want to fill it up some more. And if we don't get that sequence right, eventually we're serving from an empty cup all the time. And so the last thing you want to do is wake up and start, diving into stressful related work. I wake up and I go into calm. I wake up and go into relaxation. I don't wake up and go into stress, because I want to enter my day calm and then build my energy to a peak. I don't want to enter my day stressed and then be drained each step of the way.
Right.
It just doesn't, like, if you start your day with stress, you're going to be constantly infusing stress in all of the work you do. So I do everything I can to start my day calm. I'm probably, out of 365 days a year, I probably get this right about 300 times, maybe 65 of them. I'm like, I blew it today. I started it with stress. What was I thinking? The other thing is, we need, as you mentioned with runners, we need to have a physical exercise that drains our energy. For me, that's boxing. And, I love boxing or hiking, but a good boxing session where I go box for an hour, I'm depleted. I'm spent, That's how I get that stress out of me. And we have to have something that depletes our energy. I don't get it. Like if I'm just pumping iron. Now, some people can. It's not as exciting to me. I still do those exercises to maintain optimal fitness and productivity. But like
Yeah,
I go box and I'm a different person afterward.
me too. Yeah, I've been boxing for about 5 years, and for the exact same reasons. I think that it's actually really important that we each find at least one thing in our life that mimics life itself, and it could be an activity, like working out, sports, tennis, boxing, but it could also be some type of a group project or a class or even a mastermind
Yeah.
where you are purposely going into adversity because it's going to make you stronger and therefore better prepared to handle life. Can you talk about some of the adversity and the specific experiences that you have faced in your life, and I guess how you overcame them?
Oh, well, I got a long list of those. I've lost friends to suicide. I've
Mhm.
lost friends to overdose and drug
Yeah.
addiction recently, dear friends. I've
Mm.
lost family members to drugs and alcohol. Lost my mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, and
Wow.
all of my, immediate closest family members have all transitioned. I do have
Mm.
sisters and brothers that I'm very close to as well. That God, I'm so happy they're still alive. But many of them went through some very hardships, some deep hardships. I too have struggled with substance related challenges in the past and self medication.
Mm.
So I've had some adversities I brought onto myself as well. I've been
Yeah.
arrested. I've been wrongly confused. I've been accused of all kinds of things that weren't true. I have people that will attack me publicly, assign wrongful intention to me, accuse me of doing things that aren't the truth, that aren't my true character and my true heart. I have bad reviews. I have people doing everything they can to try to sabotage my growth and my success as a public figure.
Yeah.
Um, I've been to jail. I've been to juvenile hall. I've had to have treatment before. I have been knocked out. I've had my teeth broken out. I've had concussions. I've broken my hand 5 times. I've been in a ton of different fights. I've contemplated my own end of life. I've um, I've had anxiety. I've had mental health related challenges, deep mental health related challenges as a result of a lot of these things that I have gone through, and so I am a expert in the subject of adversity, whether it be self-imposed, macro adversity, society related adversity, culture related adversity, and micro adversity. I know adversity well, but what I know about adversity is this: we should actually celebrate people who have gone through adversity.
Agreed.
We should have them wear, much like we ask our generals to put, every battle that they've had is a medal, and they're just decorated, they're all blinged out. Everybody who's gone through adversity should be all blinged out with their adversity. We shouldn't be in shame, in
Yeah.
grief, and we shouldn't be, guilty. It's like, no, I beat addiction. Do you know how
Yeah.
hard beating addiction is? I beat the devil back in that front. I beat the devil back in mental health. I beat the devil back in physical health. I beat the devil back in a variety of different places that some people never get out of. I got out of that. So we should celebrate those people who have fought and won adversity as the heroes of our society because they have the
Yeah.
wisdom. Adversity holders are the wisdom holders, and adversity turns into wisdom, and it even turns into spiritual authority once you
Mhm.
conquer the adversity. So I
Yeah.
can help people that have been through similar challenges as I have because I have mastered those challenges. And you'd much rather talk to somebody who's been through it than talk to somebody who theoretically knows how to help you through it. Like, no, I want someone who's climbed this mountain. I
Mm.
want to talk to the person who's climbed the mountain that I'm trying to climb. I don't want to talk to someone, who read a book about climbing a mountain and they tell me how to climb a mountain.
Right. And I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you for sharing that level of detail with your experience. It really speaks to, I think, a lot of not just your story, obviously, but a lot of people can connect to a lot of those themes. but may not be publicly or openly discussing it or recognizing that they're there. So thank you for sharing that. I'm curious on your awakening, man, because obviously, you know, I think about awakenings like snowflakes, right? Nobody's is the same. For me, it was sudden. It was not gradual, but looking back, there was definitely build up to it that I didn't recognize was happening at the time. And the angle that mine actually took was, oddly enough, kind of from like a paranormal afterlife type perspective. I started digging into those subjects, and it really opened me up and helped to expand my consciousness, where I started wanting to learn more about the multidimensional self and the nature of reality. And that one thing led to another. But for you, was it more gradual, or was it just something happened and everything changed for you?
Well, I think for all of us, there's a gradual force at work that we just don't see.
Mm,
And then all of a sudden, some of us, it just hits us all at once, right? But there's, when I look back at the pattern, I'd started the path of awakening in like 2014.
okay.
And then 2017, I awakened
Yeah.
because I was a tough nut to crack, right? I
Yeah.
didn't, I didn't get the message early on. And the awakening it was real simple. My mom was on hospice and
Hmm.
she was making a rebound, and we were like, wow, she's going to make it. And then a voice spoke to me clearly and said, go say goodbye to your mother.
Hmm.
And I was like at first I denied it. What? Like, what's this voice? It said, go say goodbye to your mother. Like now. It was almost like a very affirm voice. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to get in the car. And she lived about 45 minutes away, and I'm going to go drive and tell her. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's going to be Thanksgiving. Like, I'm planning on Thanksgiving. And I said, Mom, I got a spiritual message to say goodbye to you. And I just want to let you know, I love you. I confessed to her. I told her that, there was a lot of things that I was having challenges with, drugs and, Playboy lifestyle, promiscuity, and that, her son's going through hell, and seeing her go through the traumatic pain that she had gone through as a result of, she had a severe brain trauma as a result of alcohol, but she fell down a flight of stairs and was in a coma for 2 years. And then by the grace of God, she woke up, and she had
Mm,
about 4 more years of being severely handicapped. But, we thought maybe she'll make it. And when that voice spoke to me, I went and said goodbye to her, and I had words with her, and I went and saw her a couple more times and prayed with her. And I told my family. A voice spoke to me and said, say goodbye to Mom. And they were like, you're crazy. Like, you've just lost your mind. And then on November the 2nd, which the anniversary is in a couple of days here, I woke up to the news that she had passed in her sleep. And
mm,
so then I get the chills just telling you this. Well, then I knew. I was like, holy shit, there's something different out there.
yeah.
Now, the day of her passing, things started happening in my life. I could feel her spirit. I could feel her presence. Doors would open and slam. Uh, Weird old friends would get messages from my mom and be like, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I got a message. And it would be exactly what I needed to hear. And then I started having her come to me in my sleep and my dreams. I could smell her perfume. I would wake up and I could smell, like, I smell her perfume. I could feel that
Sure.
there was a multidimensional aspect to this thing that we call life,
Yeah.
and that the soul does elevate to another destination.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning. I was like, okay, I know something that isn't, like, I knew it in theory before, and I'd heard about this, but like now I had personal evidence that this is real. That
Right.
the reality that I had thought was more of a theory was real. And that just blew my mind, and then opened me up to want to understand how to communicate with this other dimension, how to be able to connect to my mom. And we had so much love that I wanted to talk to her. And so I was like, God, I'll change whatever I need to change. I'll purify myself so I can make a spiritual connection with my mother. And I can tell you, people might think I'm crazy for saying this, but my mother's never left, my side for one day since she elevated. She talks to me all the time. I get to hear her voice all the time. I have a
Mm,
new spiritual relationship with her, different than the physical relationship. And
yeah.
yeah, I miss the hugs and I miss the physical relationship, but I, have this just peace in my heart knowing that I'm now in a spiritual relationship with her, and I can call upon her anytime I need to. And I can have her presence anytime I call her name.
Wow, I love that. It's really interesting to hear how your story has evolved, and having that close tie and that parallelism with her is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, how do you feel like you're coming into consciousness or consciousness in general? How do you feel like that works together with capitalism, and how have you woven those principles and those values of awakening into a business context?
I was just in a room with a bunch of people that had sold their companies for like 100 million plus.
Yeah.
And they asked me to come give a speech. And I thought it's a very secular, non-conscious room. Everybody cared about their watches and their cars and their mansions, and
Wow.
and they all wanted to make more money, and they all already had enough money, right?
Yeah.
But they're in the room. I wasn't sure how well I would be received, and I came in and I explained to them that we are all aligned, and that each and every single one of us knows that there is something about us that is untapped. There's untapped potential. And if you get to the top of the mountain when it comes to money, you realize there are other mountains that don't involve money that you're going to need to climb one day. And I got to the top of the money mountain, then realized like this isn't all, if this is all there is to life, then it's not worth living. And I realized that there's a spiritual mountain, and there's a mountain around your understanding of love, and there's a mountain around your understanding of self-control. And there's all kinds of
Mm.
mountains that we can climb in life that, that aren't represented purely by money. And when I shared that message with the room, I watched as they all shifted. I
Mm.
told them, like, look, we're all here to tap into our untapped potential. And some of you, that's what's keeping you up at night, is there's something more to life than just money. But yet the only game that you know how to play in is money. You don't know how to play in the spiritual game. You don't know how to play in the relationship game. You don't know how to play in the family game. You don't know how to play in the health game and the nature game and the earth game. And there's a whole series of games all around you that if you learn to play in, as
Yeah.
well as you've learned to play in the money game, you're
Yeah.
going to have love and peace and joy and happiness and goodness and kindness and gentleness and self-control and faithfulness in your life. And when I shared that message with them, like literally you saw everybody in the room just basically say, I want what you have, because I
Mm.
have peace. I have a deep peace inside of me. And the people that I know that are focused on the capitalistic pursuit, many of them don't have true peace.
Right.
And the spiritual pursuit will bring you peace.
Yes, it will. And it's an important game. It's a game that you can't just quit once you start. You a mind exposed to new ideas or new dimensions cannot go back to old ones. I think that's an Oliver Wendell Holmes quote that
Yeah.
really resonates with me.
Yeah.
Um,
If you go backward, you suffer.
you
You
do.
know, we only have the free will to choose the light or the dark. That's it. And so the light is a harder path. The dark is easy. Go through a challenge, go get some wine. That's an easy decision. Go through a challenge and say, I'm not going to numb myself. I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to feel this. I'm going to ask myself, who is this that's feeling this? Why am I feeling this? What about this is rattling my cage? What is real here? What do I need to change? What do I need to heal? What do I need to grow? Why did I call this into my life? Right? The dark is the easiest path to take. And when you take the path of the dark, you suffer. When you take the path of the light, you grow. And the more that you
Yeah.
grow, the more that you heal, and the more that you heal, the more that you need to grow. And it's a process. It's not easy. But we only have the free will to choose the light or the dark, basically. Once you're on the spiritual path, there's a tight leash on you.
Yeah, definitely. And you become more fine-tuned, you become more spiritually mature, I think, as you work through the chapters of your life. And for me, looking back, at some of the hardest moments that I didn't recognize as being beautiful at the time, I now view as just being absolutely exquisite and so perfect,
Yeah.
perfectly imperfect, because of the man that they've forced me to become, and the spirit that they have molded me into. So
Yeah.
that's really important.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. The moments in our life, I look back and I go, of course, I needed to go to juvenile hall,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah, in juvenile hall was where I learned to read the Bible, and where I learned to read the Bible out loud, because I was in
Yeah.
solitary confinement. They'd only give me one book. and so I'm reading it out loud, and I had a vision that I'd one day be a preacher. And so I would never have had that vision in any other environment, and certainly not the environment that I lived in, because, the house that I was in wasn't, a biblical house, wasn't a spiritual house. And the people I was hanging around weren't spiritual. And so I had to go there to get a Bible put in my hand so that I'd read it, so that I'd have a vision for myself beyond it.
Right. And I don't know if you're preaching per se, but you're definitely teaching the masses. And I've been following you for a while, and I've got to say the content that you share on a regular basis is really high vibrational and really educational at the same time. So thank you for your work, man. Ryan, was there anything that I didn't ask you today that you did want to make sure that we covered?
No, just, I love to be there for people during times of crisis. So if any of the audience is going through it right now, they're having a difficult time, or they feel like they have a deep, untapped potential within them that they're not able to tap into, I'd love to be of service and love to help in any way I can.
Yeah, and I also want to recognize the work you're doing over at AlterCall. Where can people go to learn more about that and to follow you?
If you go to altercall.com, it's AlterCall.com, or you can catch me on Instagram, and I'm at Real Ryan Blair. If you DM me, we'll have a conversation.
All right, guys, thank you for joining. This has been a great conversation with the Ryan Blair, and we will see you next time on the Models of Masters.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.